Hello and welcome, friends, once again to the India Today South Conclave 2023. We are coming to you from Kovalam in Kerala, a long way away from Delhi, and in many ways, this distance has become for many a source of friction. In fact, the growing divide between an all-powerful centre and state governments has become a running narrative of our times, and one that possibly poses huge challenges for the constitutional vision of a federal India. What is the future of Indian federalism? How will the north-south divide play out in the years ahead? And indeed, more importantly, the growing concern of a divide between centre and states. Who better to answer some of these questions than my guest today? He has been both finance minister and the home minister of the country. Please welcome Mr. P. Chidambaram. Mr. Chidambaram, am I exaggerating this concern that many opposition parties in particular have over the future of cooperative federalism? Or do you believe that this is going to become a major friction point in the years ahead?
In my view, you are understating the problem.
Understating it?
Yes, you're not exaggerating. Every state is now bristling with a kind of encroachment which the centre is making into its executive powers and legislative powers. And therefore, I think the problem, if it's not addressed up front with reasonable debate, will become more and more acute.
Give me an example of when you say that there is a sense of centre encroaching into state powers. Give me an example that you believe is a sign, an ominous portent for the future.
I'll give you two examples. One is education. Now, a state government uses state government funds, sets up government medical colleges, and naturally it is meant for most people who belong to that state, domicile of that state, but nobody denies the right of anyone who migrates to a state like Tamil Nadu or Kerala to claim domicile after 5 years or 10 years. Now today the state governments have no power to decide who will be admitted to those colleges. State government funds, tax paid by the people of that state, they set up government colleges, largely to admit students who are domiciled in that state. Why should the centre decide who will be admitted and who will not be admitted? Another example, cooperative sector. Now for the last 73 years, the cooperative sector has been entirely under the state government. And there have been very, very successful cooperative movements in this country, cooperative societies, cooperative banks, cooperative milk societies. Now why should the centre now create a ministry of cooperation and put the most powerful minister apart from the Prime Minister in charge, and all the banks, all the cooperative banks, all the multi-state cooperative societies are all reporting to the centre now? Now, these are clearly encroachment into the executive and legislative powers of the state government.
No, is this centre versus states, or is it an all-powerful BJP government versus opposition-ruled states? Because I don't sense, say, from example, from a Naveen Patnaik, who seemed to be close to the Modi government, or indeed BJP-ruled governments objecting to what you're claiming is misuse of centre's executive powers. It's primarily the opposition-ruled state. So is the real problem that the compact between an all-powerful centre ruled by the BJP and the opposition-ruled states has broken down?
The correct way to describe the problem is centre versus state. Except, of course, the BJP chief ministers are mute witnesses. If they protested, they may not be chief ministers tomorrow.
You know, Mr. Chidambaram, it's almost as if you're suggesting that these problems emerged only in 2014.
I didn't say that.
You
I didn't
are
say
a
that.
Congress person. The Congress for 90 times, Indira Gandhi, Mr. Modi said this on the floor of the House, said Mrs. Indira Gandhi used Article 356 90 times and used the Article 50 times to dismiss governments in the 1970s and 80s.
We are mixing up issues. You asked me about the all-powerful center encroaching into states' rights. And I gave you examples of executive encroachment, legislative encroachment. Now you are switching to a completely different subject. Article 356, imposition of president's rule. Until S.R. Bommai's case, the law was understood differently. Not only Indira Gandhi, Charan Singh, Morarji Desai understood the law differently. Therefore, after S.R. Bommai's judgment, where has the centre, whenever it's ruled by the Congress, exceed its powers? Therefore, I think the watershed is S.R. Bommai's case.
Yeah, there was one case in Bihar, for example, when Abdul Kalam, while he was in Moscow, was virtually forced to dismiss a Bihar government. You're saying that's an exception? That's not the real issue at the moment. You believe governments will not be dismissed?
I think dismissing a government, unless there is a very, very well-documented case of constitutional breakdown, is wrong. Article 356 did not allow for such dismissal. But then again, this is part of legal history of India. We can only look back and say wrong things were done by all governments of the centre, and the law was set straight in S.R. Bommai's
Okay,
case.
so you admit in a way that there was this overreach in the 1970s when Mrs. Gandhi was in power. You're admitting that. We'll now come from there to the present.
You're making it as though I'm in the witness box and you're a prosecutor and you want me to make a confession. I'm stating a view, a legal view.
Okay,
the law was differently understood. The
Okay.
law was later better understood.